Hello and welcome to Frozen Synapse 2 Developer Diary number 31. I'm Ian Hardingham, designer and lead programmer on Frozen Synapse 2, and in a pretty quick video this week I'm going to talk about scoring systems and answer your questions in the mailbag. So let's go! Now, I know a lot of you guys like to see news on the city, and I was really hoping to be able to do some really big stuff on artificial intelligence and new mission stuff this week, but due to various things going on with business stuff, I haven't managed to make as much progress on the new mission stuff as I'd hoped to. So next week we'll have a really exciting video with some really fundamental changes to missions and what the AI is doing in missions. But today I just wanted to talk about a very micro issue, once again to do with one-turns, and it's to do with rankings and how we rank people and score you in a meta way in one-turns. Now, I am almost done iterating one-turns, I think, certainly for the public release beta. I put an awful lot of work into it, and I think they're looking really good. As I said last week, I've made some new game mode changes, and I've made some even further changes since then based on feedback from our fantastic closed beta testers. And one of the last things to go in is rankings. I'd spent so long working on the internals of individual one-turns, how to score those, how to generate them correctly, etc. And then it's finally time to get to something overarching and meta to give you a feeling of progression. So here we are looking at the rather ugly, yet be sort of produced and made nice by the fluffing of my esteemed colleague Paul Taylor. But nevertheless, this is here the one-turns ranking screen. We have three distinct types of rankings. Rankings for plays in the last 24 hours, something I always really like to have because it means that it's constantly turning over and you can do something meaningful on this individual day. Here we have the global rankings, which people like Neophelis and crazy competitive people like that want to have at all times so they can show how great they are. And finally there's top plays, which I think is a really nice form of rankings. This just ranks the highest tops, i.e. the individual plays that have scored best relatively on their own individual one-turns. If that doesn't make a lot of sense to you, I think my descriptions later on will. But basically, P8R has a margin of 220 points in the game number 270, which means that everyone else who's played it has done significantly worse than that. In order to qualify for a top play, a one-turn has to have had 6 plays at least. At least I hope that's true. I need to check that actually. And what's great about this is that people will come and see the top plays leaderboard and they will immediately see this one and they'll want to challenge him. So if I double click on P8R's play here and play some elevator music while we wait for the server to respond, here we go, they can immediately challenge to try and do better than him with a little bit of information about how much extra he scored, although with 270 that's really quite large. This is one of the new game types where the green type, which everyone but the original seeder of the game was playing, has to protect this guy and get bonus points for killing the enemy units. So there we go. Anyway, that's an overview of what the rankings are showing. But what I'm really doing a deep dive into today is the actual metric by which we rank your performance on one-turns. Here is one-turn number 206, and it was seeded by Pula. He was the original person to do the red play for this one-turn. Let me just rewind it really quickly, and here we go. This is the same game mode again. The green team, who as it happens is the one being played by everyone except the original player, have to defend this machine gunner at all costs, and then will get bonus points based on other kills and not suffering other deaths. So if we just look at my play for this, which I have forgotten what I did, I sent this guy out into the open, sent a flamethrower through there, and generally did pretty well. So I have, in fact, I said do pretty well, but I only got 33%. And immediately let's get into what's going on with this scoring stuff. There's so much going on, and I just want to talk about it. So this play, Mr. Pewler's 1 turn 206, has 4, 8, 12, 13, it looks like, possibly 14 opposing plays. So now these are ranked from top to bottom in order of how well they did. So let's talk about the very basic scoring method, which is, and we'll talk about it from the perspective of green, as everyone's playing green, apart from Pewler. If you manage to protect this guy through the turn, as I did, you'll get a base score of 100 points. And if you don't, you'll get a base score of minus 100 points. Basically, whether you get a positive or a negative score is totally to do with whether you achieve the primary goal of the level. Some people did not manage to keep this guy safe. I'm going to pick on Mr. Zorbaz and see what he did. And he gets killed by Pewler's machine gunner there. In fact, he really didn't do very much with these guys, which is probably one of the reasons he did very well. It didn't do very well anyway. So this play is in the negatives because he failed on his primary objective. Basically, in these 1 turns, in general, you cannot score more than minus 100 if you fail the primary objective, and you cannot score less than 100 if you succeed. Now, after that, it's pretty simple. You get 10 points for a kill, and you lose 10 points for a loss. And it's all sort of calculated mathematically, so that 100 is the baseline if you have succeeded in saving your 1 unit. So, hopefully that has made it somewhat clear what the very basic mission score is. So, now something that's interesting about this 1 turn is that the top 5 people all got 130. Let's look at Mr. Bin's play. Now, 130 is actually the maximum score you can get on this 1 turn. It means you killed all of the opposition and you didn't lose any yourself. So that's one of the reasons we've got a bunch at the top, because 5 people managed to do the best you can do. Now, as an aside, when trying to design how the scoring of this kind of stuff works, the question of how granular to go is a really, really interesting one. I had for a while extra bonus points for focus kills, and you can get even more granular. You could give people more points for killing units earlier on, for their units surviving longer. It all depends on what's important to you to make the players think is important to them. I think this level of granularity is about right, because it doesn't make you sort of think in super micro meta terms about trying to keep a unit alive for 10 milliseconds longer. And that can lead to really annoying play, but obviously having some bonus points for kills and deaths is really good. And I'm pretty happy with this leaderboard. Generally, you wouldn't want 5 people to all have got the maximum score, but it's absolutely fine to happen here. The next 3 people all got 120, which can, I think, happen. It can happen 2 different ways. Either you can keep everyone alive and kill 2 of the enemy, or you could kill all of the enemy and lose 1 of yours. I'm not going to look into whether that's happened. I'm languishing down at 110 because I only managed, because I lost my rocket launcher up there and only managed to kill 2 of the opposition. Anyway, I have no idea if anyone's still watching, but there you go. That's what happens with the base score. Now, the number that's highlighted, that's emphasized in individual 1 turns is the percent. And this is basically the percentage of people that you beat or did as well as. All of these guys who got the top score, it's at 83%. It's basically how many people you beat and half of how many people you did as well as, is actually how that's calculated. This, once again, is going back to contract bridge scoring, and this is the kind of thing that happens over there. And that's how I come up with this stuff. So I'm very happy with the percentage system as an an individual one-term scoring method. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's a big number. Everyone understands percentages. The higher, the better. So I'm really happy with that. But when it comes to trying to work out how your performance on multiple one-turns compares to others, then it gets a lot more complicated. Okay, I've brought up a new one-turn just to have something different on your screen. And now I'm going to talk about how I have changed the scoring system to enable you to compare people's performances across multiple one-turns. I went to Bridge again and I had a look at what they were doing, and I came back with a concept of match points. Now, the problem with comparing percentages across one-turns is that if you get 100% on a one-turn that only has 2 plays, that's nowhere near as impressive as getting 80% on a one-turn that has 100 plays. So they're not weighted, basically. And what I have started to do, and what is currently in, is a system called match points. Now, the number of match points you get on a one-turn is simply how many plays you did better than. So I did the same as Ragua, but I beat Hal and Duncan, so I get 2 match points. If we load up Mr. Matchstick, who's Matchek from Tokyo 42 fame, let's have a quick look at his play here. He manages to hide in the smoke and the grass, and he gets a great score of 110, not quite the top. But he has beaten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people. He gets 9 match points. This is a really nice way of combining rewarding you for good performance, but also rewarding you for how many you are playing. And that's really one of the core issues here that I want to talk about and get your feedback on. This morning I changed match points from something different to what they are right now. Previously I had it that you got +1 match point for everyone you beat and -1 match point for everyone that you did worse than. So I, instead of getting 2 match points, would have got something like -8. Just tough going. Let's just see my play that unfortunately does not lead in me saving the Grenadier there. -8 is pretty tough. At the moment, obviously everyone gets positive match points because you can only get 0. But if you have a system where you're losing a match point for doing badly, as it were, then the more you play, it can vastly change, and it rewards you much less for just playing a lot. So I'd be interested in hear what you guys think about that. I think personally it's important to reward people both for playing and for doing well, but sometimes getting the balance on that is really tricky. It's also a question of how many match points you should get for doing really well on a one turn that has like 1,000 plays. Should you really be able to get 750 match points for that when a lot of other people play one turn and just be able to have a maximum of 6? It's a really complicated question. Doing better than 750 other people, that's very legitimate. That's something you should get 750 points for. But a lot of other people playing that day just won't have had the opportunity to play a one turn that has that many plays. This is one of the reasons that one turns are just so fascinating to work on. There's so many interesting new challenges to look at. Again, I don't know if you guys find this scoring stuff as interesting as I do, and I do find it sort of moderately hilarious that in order to show your score on a one turn, you have 3 completely different numbers, and the one that's sort of smallest and least important is the one that traditionally would be the most important, the one that actually records what you've done on that play. I find that hilarious, but I also absolutely love working in it. So again, tell me if that was interesting or boring. Next week, I promise we'll do a lot of really, really good city stuff. We'll get back to city missions and AI. And if you are on the closed beta, please log in and give this stuff a go. Okay, and now it's time to move on to the mailbag. As always, thank you for all your questions and comments, and keep them coming. Our first comment is an interesting one. Tom Dupre says, "You're making me very wary with this video. You keep talking about trying to design in addiction. I think you should be more careful with the language you're using." Okay, that's interesting. I'm going to take that as a straightforward comment for now. I guess I want to make a game that is compelling to play, that you want to come back and play because you are finding it really, really exciting. I definitely can understand there being some problems around the use of the actual word addiction. Certainly there are lots of games that try and make you addicted by using what I would view as not good design techniques. I think if you're a long-time watcher of my videos, you probably understand that everything I'm doing with this game, especially with one-turns, is about trying to make something that's just extremely good, extremely competitive, and is not using a load of Skinner's box style stuff to get you addicted in a way which doesn't really mean anything. So thank you for your comment, and that is my response. A Patriot virus talks about an idea to make long turns work with the AI. It is an idea that would be my working one anyway if I need to do this, and he's basically saying you recalculate the AI every 5 seconds, despite the fact that the player has only done one 15-second turn, for instance. Now, the real problem with that is that it depends whether I can do it without having to run the AI the whole time, because that's just going to make it take almost as long as if the player had to commit, because the AI takes such a long time. There are other issues with it as well. I'm kind of hoping that some of the changes I'm making to the AI will make this work without me having to do anything major like that, but we'll see, and I appreciate the ideas. Leo Baring says that he likes these videos, and they're doing a good job of getting him excited for the release. That is, of course, the idea. I'm really, really glad to hear that. It makes me very happy that we still have quite a lot of viewers watching these things. Litigation Jackson, which is an excellent name for anything, says that he's just started playing the tabletop game Infinity, which has got him back into Frozen Synapse. I need to check that out. The only Infinity I'm aware of is Disney Infinity, which I'm assuming you are not referring to. So there you go. LinkX2 asks what was the problem with the one-turn charge mode. It was just a little bit too undirected, and I've replaced it with a secure mode where you are trying to penetrate a specific area, and that works better. And he asks what engine I'm using. This is a highly modified version of the Torque engine, which is the engine that I have used for my entire professional life, including for quite a lot of stuff at university, back when it was just the Tribes 2 engine. It's pretty crazy in lots of ways, but for the level of programming and involvement I want to have in an engine, it really works very well for me. Tortu Osit says, one turns look very interesting. Is it a closed beta? Yes, it is currently. Hoping to go into paid beta in December. BlueTag9009 asks when we can expect the Linux port, and there's a reply. I don't think we've actually got the Linux port up on the beta yet, but that will be coming soon. We're dealing with some sound issues with Fmod, which is the sounds library we use. We're certainly like 100% expecting to have OS X and Linux day and date with the Windows version, both for beta and full release. So there you go. As usual, thanks for listening. Once again, we'll get back to the City game next week. If you have any exciting opinions on scoring system for one turns, please add them in the comments below. Thank you and goodbye.